Welcome everyone to our informational session, Q&A session for the Community Academic Aging Research Network's Pilot Award Program, which we've branded as the Prototyping Assistive Technology with Community and Health Partners, or PATCHES for short. We're very excited to have so many interested faculty and scientists here to learn about what this award is for and what it's meant to support. The CAARN program is in its second year for assisting with assistive technology for older adults, and we have many of our team members here. So before I get underway, I'm just going to very briefly announce who those are, and you can just kind of wave your hand and say hello so people know who's a part of the team. So I'm just going to start left to right with who I see. So Dr. Jane Mahoney from UW-Madison Geriatrics.
Hi.
And we have Amy Ryan from the Wisconsin Institute for Healthy Aging, who's our Community Research Associate staff.
Welcome, everyone.
We have Ms. Carla Gaines from Dane County, who is works with the African American Health Network.
Welcome. So glad to be here.
We have Mariana Garcia, who is admin support and works in the UW School of Nursing.
Hi.
And we have Dr. Barb King, who is also a professor in the UW School of Nursing.
Hi, welcome everyone.
And an MPI for this project, as well as Jane Mahoney, sorry. And we have Dr. Hungry Zhang, who's in the UW Computer and Electrical Engineering Department, and is also an MPI for this project.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to be.
And last but certainly not least, we have Dorana Woods, who is in Milwaukee and is part of the UW Center for Community Engagement and Health Partnerships, and is also a Community Research Associate with CAARN.
Good to see everyone. Thank you for joining.
I just saw someone else. We have Mia Croyle, who is with Metastar, an outside organization from UW, who's also a Community Research Associate with CAARN.
Hope everybody's staying warm.
Great. Thank you all. All right, so let's get started. So what we're hoping for everyone to get from this session today is fourfold. And first, it's to better understand and describe this pilot funding opportunity to you and how it could relate to your research and how ultimately we want it to benefit older adults in Wisconsin through innovative new technology ideas to better serve them. We also want to emphasize very clearly, which we'll have many slides to go and make sure this is emphasized, is the importance of early engagement with community and organizational representatives. This is a huge part of the process to conducting community engaged research and working with partners outside of UW and who really help implement your research. So it's a huge part of the process, and so we want you to kind of understand why that's baked so much into this proposal application and as a part of the general process for working with partnerships between community and academic organizations. And we also want to make sure to highlight the key resources available to you as prospective applicants, and one of those being our program itself. CAARN is a resource for you. It's particularly for pre-award, and whether it's for the CAARN Pilot Award or for another grant opportunity, we are glad to be a resource to you, among other organizations across nursing and engineering and education. So, and lastly, we want to be sure to answer the questions that you have, and I know a few submitted in the registration. So please, by all means, speak up and ask your questions, because we want to be sure that you have the information you need and whether or not this would be a great opportunity for you and what you have in mind for your research. And although we feel this session will be super beneficial to you understanding the pilot award process and/or application requirements, it's not a substitute for reviewing the RFA, the request for applications itself. So please be sure to review that very carefully as you're moving through. I myself, Will Palmer, am here to answer your questions as the program manager for CAARN. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me or that CAARN at medicine.wis.edu address. You can email either of those, and I'll be happy to help answer your questions. But please, please, please review that RFA. And part of we feel that what makes for sometimes a better discussion and more participation is to feel free to speak up and ask questions, clarification questions. I'll be monitoring the chat, so if you want to ask them there, I can also be sure to answer them and or maybe stop one of our speakers so that they can answer that question. All right. I am going to pass the torch over to one of our multiple principal investigators, Barb King, to just have a little bit of an explanation for what we mean by assistive technology and what makes a good proposal.
Thanks, Will. So we define assistive technology as either can be hardware or can be software, but they're products that should do any of the following. Help individuals maximize their function and health, and it could be physical function, it could be cognitive function, it could be chronic illness management, it could be preventative. So think broadly around that. These devices should help individuals communicate, be able to function mentally, hear, see, or care for themselves. Could be caregiver related. So caregivers caring for an older adult. They could be technology that help support aging in place, or it could be technology that reduces caregiver burden. Can you give me the next one, Will? So Will had indicated around community engaged research. We know by looking at the literature on user-centered design and assistive technology that involving the end user really early on is critically important in the design of the technology to make sure it's feasible, functional, and usable to the end target person. So we're here to help you with that community engaged research piece. So maybe your project is to design, like to get your community partner set up or just start working with community partners around how to either develop a new technology or refine an existing technology, all around these issues of health outcomes, improving health, and quality of life. Maybe it's an activity to refine a prototype through a continuous quality improvement process with your community partners. It might be an initial test of feasibility or usability of a proposed technology. Maybe it was tested, you designed it in a lab. Now you want to use it with humans. And so try to think about what are the initial feasibility tests with human users. Or maybe these are projects that will be addressing any of the above, but have the high likelihood for extramural funding. So this gives you that springboard, the pilot funding, the springboard to a larger extramural grant. Next slide. What does it not fund? And this is pretty important because our grant does not fund clinical trials. So if your application is a clinical trial, then this mechanism would not be aligned with what we could fund. Also, these pilot projects will not fund basic scientific or engineering research that aims to improve theory of a new technology. So we are looking for technology that's going to move forward to a usable device. And then I think this is Jane.
So we want to say a little more about community engagement and this user-centered design. So often assistive technology has been built for with the user's input coming pretty late in the process. And consequently, users, especially older adults, may not use the technology. It may be too complex for them. It may not fit their needs. So our goal is to help you through these pilot funding awards, put the user very near the beginning to really get their feedback, so that you understand their context of use, you understand their user requirements, and then create designs that fit their requirements and context, and then evaluate against those requirements. So understanding, testing, feasibility, acceptability, for usability for the users. And one other, this is iterative. You can see that at all stages you're tweaking with your user's input. One thing I want to bring up is defining who the user is, because this will be part of your application. We encourage you to think not only about the main user, the end user, but about all those who may play a role, whether it's clinicians or whether it's caregivers, um, or other stakeholders in the community, pharmacists, depending on what the technology is. The users can include all the people that have a touch in making that technology useful for older adults. Next slide. So, we've heard over and over, and this includes with people with dementia and cognitive impairment, nothing for us or nothing about us without us. So again, it's stressing the importance of their input early on, and it's meaningful involvement, maybe rounds of focus groups or interviews to get feedback as you're refining, and then it may be some feasibility testing with the product. So meaningful involvement of patients, caregivers, of course, technology developers as appropriate, health scientists, clinicians, and other healthcare community partners, from planning to conducting to dissemination. So one of CAARN's functions, and CAARN has been here for over 10 years, working with community partners, the Dane County African American Health Network in Dane County, and the Center for Community Engagement in Milwaukee, Wisconsin Institute for Healthy Aging, which connects to aging units and across Wisconsin and all Wisconsin's counties and tribes, and Metastar, which connects with health care providers across Wisconsin. We've developed relationships with those boundary spanning organizations, those linked liaison organizations, that then in turn trust the relationships that we are fostering, and so can go to their community partners, like a senior center or a neighborhood center, a particular clinic up in Wausau, to go to those community partners and help you identify older adults to participate in the research by serving as users or caregivers. So that is one of the areas where we have linkages that we will be able to help you connect to get community engaged research going. So they serve as partners, our community organizations serve as partners to support community engagement and research. They emphasize building strong relations and mutual respect. So it's part of the trust that makes these relationships continue. And it helps to ensure that the research is relevant, appropriate, and beneficial to the community. So that's the philosophy underpinning CAARN and underpinning the RFAs, and how in the work that would occur with community partners. So a successful application would look like it's addressing needs that are important to community partners. So some community engagement ahead of time to show, yes, this is something that community members care about. And it shows how it advances health and function for older adults in Wisconsin. It builds on identified community assets. So through, as you develop partnerships with potentially CAARN's assistance or one of the other organizations around UW-Madison, then though that may help build on like a community asset, maybe a specific church as a partner or a choir, for example. So there can our community organizations in our network can help you identify those community assets to leverage. The research methods that you would use are clearly defined and rigorous. The collaborations that would be developed would be sustainable. So it would build on trust and a sense of partnership that gives back to the community. Ultimately, this would help propel into innovations into practice in the clinics and/or communities. So it's a step. It's not going to go directly into practice, but it's a step in that direction. It should utilize a sound community collaboration or community engagement methodology and a methodology such as user-centered design that is a sound basis for technology development. We do hope that we can engage populations with historically low participation, and through several of our partners in CAARN, we have those connections, and we're including with rural older adults and Black and Brown community populations in Madison and Dane County. And it would clearly describe the long-term goals for practical application that would build upon this. So what are types of campus resources? We mentioned CAARN, which connects academic researchers with community partners. And we is highly encouraging of early consultation. If you don't already have a community partner in mind that or an organization that can help you find community partners, consult with us early because it does take time for our network partners in Dane County, Milwaukee, and across the state to ensure that there is community enthusiasm and then fit. And make those connections. And an application looks better when those connections are at least in place and known at the time that the grant pilot application is submitted. So that's true for other campus resources. Please contact them as early as possible to give them time to help build relationships or help you build relationships. So there are a number of resources listed in the appendix for the RFA, but we can call out specific ones in addition to CAARN. CAARN really is part of its mission is to provide that resource for facilitating community collaboration, but there are a number of other ones listed here. And
Hello, my friends. I'm Mariana. I'm part of the support team for this pilot award. What I'm going to do over the next few minutes is go over, really dig into the minutia of how to apply for this. How is it going to be reviewed? So these next two slides are going to show you the key dates for this application. Your next key date to keep in mind is January 13th. So we're hoping you'll have some time to take a break and rest over the holidays so that you're not working all the way through the holidays. You have a couple of weeks after that. But this is when you'll turn in your letter of interest, which I'll probably just abbreviate LOI from now on. Everyone who submits an LOI will have an opportunity to submit a full application as long as they meet our application criteria, which I'll go over in a couple of slides. I know that's not the case with some granting agencies, like PCORI is not like that, where you have to be invited they'll do an initial screening after the LOI. For us, as long as you meet the criteria, you will have a chance to make your case for full funding. So January 13, you send in the LOI, we'll screen it, make sure you meet criteria. Within a week or so, you'll receive a link that you're going to use to submit your full application, and that's due on March 10th. So then what we'll do on our end is we'll spend spring and early summer reviewing the application. By mid-July, we're aiming to notify folks whether their application was funded or not. And then the teams that were funded should have the funds available to them in late August. Could I have the next slide, please? All right, so for more of a visual person, here's similar information in timeline format with some extra information sprinkled in there. This window here on the left, in the blue and green, it shows this window that we're in now. So between the RFA announcement and submitting the full application, as Jane pointed out earlier, this is when you should be identifying, engaging with your community partners and any of your other collaborators. You do not need to submit letters of support with your LOI, so that's due first, but you will need them for your full application. One more key point we want to highlight. This study, this funding application, if your study requires IRB approval, you will need to have that approval done before we can give you your money. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've never heard the term IRB before, now's a great time for you to start learning about it. The UW IRB website is pretty great, and you can also reach out to the support staff in your department. So if you're funded, as soon as you hear that you're funded, first thing you do is you celebrate. Second thing you do is you email people to start getting your IRB. Otherwise, we're going to hold on to your money and we won't give it to you. When you're about 6 months into your project, we're going to send you a little survey link so that you can submit a progress report. I super duper promise we worked hard to make this not exhaustive. It's a friendly check-in. We want to see how you're doing, what's going well, what's not going so well. Are you spending this nice money that we gave you? So shouldn't be a burdensome process for you. Last thing on this slide, we do allow a 6-month no-cost extension. You need to submit that about 2 months before the original end date of the award. So we'll prime you for that. We'll ask you, like, do you need to submit something or not? Could I have the next slide, please? All right, so I've been teasing these criteria that we need you to abide by. We do want to make this accessible for folks to apply. There can be a single PI, there can be multiple PIs, but the contact PI on the grant has to have at least a 50% appointment with their department. They also can't be a current active PI on another CAARN grant or have applied for a CAARN grant in 2025. If you're in one of these buckets, you can still be involved in the project. You can still be a central figure in the project. You just can't be the contact PI. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so we've talked about the letter of interest a little bit already. But the point of it is not to screen the application for merit at that point. It's to help us make sure that the contact PI, that your team, that the proposal meets our eligibility requirements that we're beholden to. And it also it helps us start identifying and inviting reviewers. We have a rigorous review process. We work hard to get a diverse panel of folks that are going to review the work that you're doing. And we want to start that process really early. So that gives us the opportunity to put together a nice group of folks that are going to give your application a fair review and an informed review. So you submit the LOI by email, easy peasy. Assuming you pass that initial screening, you'll get a red cap link and you'll use that to submit the application. Could I have the next slide? Thank you. So here's what we want you to include it. 1 page, please. 11-point font, please. A brief summary of what you're proposing to do, what are the gaps that you've identified in this field and how you're proposing to address them, and who's partnering with you in this endeavor. Remember, you need community partners. Community engagement is at the core of this funding opportunity. It's okay at this stage if you don't have a firm commitment. It's okay if you haven't like gotten like a firm like yes or no from them yet, but you do need to let us know who you're planning to reach out to and how they're going to be involved in your project. But really, the earlier you do that, the better, because you'll have that relationship established. But you don't need letters of support from them at this stage yet. We'd also like you to tell us if your work serves populations that have had historically reduced access to resources. So folks in rural communities, folks living in poverty, people with disabilities, and there's a more complete list of examples in the RFA. Could I have the next slide? Thank you. All right, so you've submitted your LOI, you've gotten a thumbs up, you're working on your application. There's 9 buckets of stuff we want you to send in with that. A scientific abstract. We also want you to include a community abstract. And this is your opportunity to tell a story, like tell us why this work matters. Why is it important to you? How has community been a part of identifying this problem and how they're going to be a part of solving this problem? These applications go through review by a community panel. So these abstracts are taken really seriously. So we really recommend that you put the time into making sure that it's a meaningful part of your application. Your community partners are a huge resource here, and they can really help you make sure that this part pops. We'd like bio sketches from your team. It's just the NIH template. You probably have these lying around anyway. There's a narrative section, which itself has subsections. So we'll go over that in a little bit. Your citations, we don't care what format you use, just be consistent, otherwise it'll drive us crazy. Please include a timeline showing how the activities are going to be spread out. It's a 1-year grant or maybe an 18-month grant, but time goes by really quickly. So please tell us how you're going to divide that activity over the time of the grant. Letters of support from your collaborators, and these letters should be specific. They should be saying what exactly are they doing in your project. It can't be stuff like the community member staff will support study activities and it's going to be awesome. Like please actually tell us how this relationship is going to work to advance the proposed research that you're trying to do. And last but not least, your proposed budget. You can have our next slide. All right, as promised, here are the 9 subcomponents of the narrative section. These probably look familiar to you if you've submitted NIH grants or have read them or been part of review teams for them. The 2 components that I'll stress here are item G, which is your community engagement plan. So much like I highlighted in the letter of support, please be specific about how the community members will be involved, how you're going to ensure that this is not like an extractive transactional relationship, how we're going to make sure that this is a sustainable partnership moving forward. And I'll also remind you that CAARN is here to help you identify partners for this work. So don't feel like you're all alone trying to identify a partner. I also want to highlight item I. This is a pilot grant, so we would love for this data to be used for a future bigger grant. Like, do you have an NIH or a PCORI or NSF opportunity in mind that you're going to use this data for? Like, how does this work fit into the current picture of your research? Could I have the next slide, please? All right, so I'll talk about our review process next, and then we'll open for additional questions. We have a 2-stage review process for applications. Before telling you about them, I'm going to tell you our criteria for review are not a secret. It's not a secret. It's all on the RFA. On page earlier in this presentation, we told you what's a characteristic of a successful application. That's on page 3 of the RFA. If you go to page 13, there's a huge section with review criteria. That is exactly what we give our reviewers. Like, they're not going to be given secret instructions. So you're going into this knowing exactly what we want to see out of application that we're trying to fund. So each application is going to go through a scientific review process by UW research staff and UW faculty with relevant expertise to your application. These folks are going to tell us if the application should make it past the next stage. So if you get a thumbs up from our scientific reviewers, it goes to a community review panel. These are folks from organizations and agencies throughout the state that have experience specifically supporting older adults. So they are there daily working with community, knowing what are folks actually going to use in their day-to-day lives? Are they going to be able to learn this new technology? Like, is that cost of learning the new technology worth the benefit that they're going to get from it? So this is a very valuable and unique perspective that they're able to bring to the review process. And these are the folks that are going to be making funding recommendations. So once they tell us yes or no on the application, that's when we'll make our funding announcements. The other thing I want to point out is that throughout this review process, we make detailed notes of everything that every reviewer said about your application. Even if you did not get funded, we will send you those, obviously anonymized, but we will send you those notes. So our hope is that even if you don't get funded this time, that can be a learning opportunity for you to apply with us again next year or with another funding agency in the future. The scientific review criteria is modeled on the NIH's simplified peer review framework with 3 scored criteria. One of them encompasses significance and innovation, one encompasses rigor and feasibility, and one that's unique to us that is specifically focused on community collaboration. We also ask reviewers to consider the expertise and the resources available to the team, and that's not scored. That they tell us if it's sufficient or insufficient. The community reviewers are going to give us a score to indicate if they think this work, the project could have a positive impact on the intended users. And we also ask them to rate the application along 5 different factors that are core to effective community engaged research. So things like, have the users actually identified this as a need? Is there evidence that what the team is proposing matches like what the community needs and might use? And again, all these factors, they're in the RFA. I promise we're not keeping information from you. And with that, I first want to thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest in this funding opportunity. We really hope that all of you apply. And I'll open up the session for any additional questions. So please unmute if you want to ask anything. And we'll also keep an eye on the chat if you prefer to ask questions that way.
Don't all speak at once.
Well, I'll ask the first question to break the ice here. Do researchers have to work with CAARN on the application in order to apply for this funding? And I guess anyone of the CAARN team can answer that.
I'll answer that. You don't have to work with CARN. If you already have, we've had some applicants last year, for example, who already had community collaborations in place, which is great. But if you don't, CARN is we think a very helpful resource. We know it is, but there are other resources on campus that maybe if it's something related to Alzheimer's disease, there are resources that can be help you with community collaborations. Or maybe you work with CAARN plus Wisconsin Alzheimer's Institute. All good.
Thanks, Jane.
So I'm going to jump in because I had a question from the registration that I think's good to sort of resurface here if we didn't cover it enough in the beginning. But someone asked, in order to apply, does my prototype need to be working or ready to test? So I don't know if Hungary, you maybe want to take that one as our lead engineer for CAARN.
That's a very good question. Well, so for this pilot project, it's not supposed to be for some very fundamental development of a device or anything. It's not like you have a blue sky idea and you want to try it out. But on the other hand, so we do require some kind of a prototype, some kind of proof of concept that shows device or the algorithm or software might work. Um, but the focus of this pilot award is to implement your concept to a community of people and to show the feasibility of helping the targeted audience or population. So a quick answer to that question, yes, we do require some kind of feasibility that's already been shown, whether it's a hardware or software. But it doesn't mean that the pilot project is only for a testing or a clinical trial, for example, which is actually not the case either. So there's room for the further development of the technology that is supported by this pilot awards.
Thank you, Hungary.
I'll just say one more word about clinical trial, which is that we provided linkages to where the NIH gives a definition, and since CAARN is NIH funded, we need to make sure that we're following their definition. And basically, if you are looking at an outcome, a pre and post, whether or not you have a control group, that outcome in terms of benefit would make this clinical trial. So this is really not about looking about the benefit, but more looking at the feasibility, the acceptability, the refinement or tweaks that are needed, that kind of thing, which would then set you up for a second study looking at the outcomes or the benefit of it. So hopefully that makes sense, but if you have any question, please refer to that those NIH definitions.
Are there questions folks have? I found another question here in the registration that says, how will any of the intellectual property be managed? Is there any answer on that from our MPI team?
Well, I can start, others can jump in too, but the WARF really serves as the intellectual property manager for campus. There are rules around intellectual property that have to do with who developed it and also where the funding came from. But all that should surface when you register your property with WARF. So we follow just similar to the rest of campus, that the first step, the last step, the middle step is WARF.
Well, I'll just keep rattling them off here. I've got another one. So this one's a little bit more uh, creative in terms of a response here, but we had someone ask whether or not you could provide some sort of examples of what are some recommended use of funding for the $50,000. So maybe giving examples of maybe a past funded project or something that can kind of highlight some of the key considerations for a funding proposal.
Well, I can start again. Some of it may go to materials and supplies and laboratory time, personnel time for further development or refinement based on community input of your technology. And some of it will go to your human subjects if you're working with older adults or caregivers and doing potentially questionnaires or some sort of uh, you know, feasibility testing where they wear a device, for example, and give feedback. Some of it may go to honorariums for an advisory board if you have an older adult or community partner or clinical partner advisory board, all of which, CAARN, we can help you with in that stage as you're developing it, your application. And then some of it may go to your community partners just for their to compensate them for their time and effort in helping to identify and recruit older adults. So, by community partners, I mean an organization such as a senior center, if you're working with a senior center or a church or the like. Do any of the other MPIs want to add anything?
Yeah, I can chime in. I think Jane summarized it very well. So, uh, I would add that the engagement with the community should be a important part of the budget and important part of the project. So I would say, so in the proposal, when you prepare the budget, please think through how to engage the community. For example, forming a focus group, um, seeking advice from the CRAs, and the budget should reflect that kind of effort.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Hungary.
Oh, I also wish to add that I think the PI um, for faculty, I believe in the RFA is very clear in that the faculty should not seek salary support from this pilot project. However, students, other personnel, you can put their effort onto this project.
Thanks, Hungary. And just as another plug, part of CAARN's support and available services to help when you do work with a partner, if we connect you with one, facilitate that partnership, is working with them to help develop that budget, especially for their roles and scope of work. So not alone in that. The questions, um, got one more here on my list. Okay. So we had one other question that says, as an engineer, is CAARN able to help me connect to a health scientist or clinical research collaborator for my innovation or ideas?
I can jump in on that one. So I think it depends upon what your idea is. We certainly are, between all of us, have a pretty strong network of health sciences researchers that we would have ideas for to think about how to make connections to connect you to a clinician or a health sciences research. So we need a little runtime. So the sooner we know, the better for us to think about who to connect you with.
Thanks, Barb. All right. Any other final questions we can help answer here? Well, I'll say what I said at the beginning, maybe before if you got on, but this will be shared out with everyone that registered for this. So even if you weren't able to join, this will be sent out and available in box, as well as posted to our website. So, and we'll keep it available in a box folder until, the full application deadline is passed, and then we'll get rid of that so we don't muck up everybody's box storage. And it'll be available on the website, and you can go peek at it. Again, as one of the administrative leads here for CAARN, please feel free to reach out to me at any time with questions and for consultations. I know we've said it over and over. The sooner you do that, the better we can start getting you information and connecting you and workshopping things with you. And it can be a little bit of a process, so we want to make sure that's very much emphasized from this.
And what is the contact? Is it?
Yes. I will send it out with a summary, but you can contact me at wpalmer3@wisc.edu, or the CAARN general email address, which is caarn@medicine.wisc.edu. And I'll go ahead and just throw that in the chat real quickly. It's on the RFA. Thanks, Jane. Perfect.
Yeah.
We work well together here. So do not hesitate. I should get back to you within 24 hours, and we're happy to talk over your ideas, wherever you're starting point it, and work together. Any final thoughts from the NPIs or CARN team?
We are looking forward to your application.
Yes, we are.
Same here.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Happy holidays and stay warm.